What's up, guys? This is Joel and Justin from apparently the first episode of the OneLife podcast, where we're going to talk about like mental health issues. If you guys aren't aware, we are a band that stands for Suicide Awareness and Prevention, and we've got a new campaign going forward with our merch. It's basically mental health matters, so that's our thing. And part of the reason we're doing this is, we just want to kind of provide another avenue for YouTube. We're just going to upload this on YouTube right now, but at some point we're going to upload it as probably a podcast episode or something on a different platform when we get one of those. But I am Joel Jackson, and
I'm Justin Manley.
And we're just going to, today I think we're going to talk about, we talked about before a little bit, we are going to talk about basically what we think depression is and our experiences with it. So that's the title of this episode, what depression is. So we're just going to have a conversation. So,
all right.
So no more talking to the people now. Yeah. So I don't know, man. So what's like your experience? I know you said like you've had stuff with anxiety, but like do you have an experience with like, I've got this theory on depression, and depression, I think it's like, everything is to me is a form of depression.
Sure.
I think. I am not a psychologist. I'm not a mental health counselor or psychologist, but like just my life experience. I've had it since I was 10, but I didn't know what you thought about like any of that stuff or.
Well, for me, I think most of my depression was caused by anxiety. I never struggled with depression when I was younger, but I've had an anxiety disorder since I was 3 years old. And once I turned about 16, I started getting depressed on and off. And I think it was a result of the anxiety, just always being anxious. It just kind of made me depressed over the years. I think that's how it is for me.
Yeah, no, totally. I think like I had depression. Okay, I actually thought about this a day ago. There was this moment when I was 11. And it was after I got done watching this movie, and like for whatever reason, I got it was the first time I got like really depressed. Almost like, and not like, because you get sad as a kid, but like depressed as in like, it felt like there was no future and there was no anything. And I had never felt that. And I connected this the other day. That's the year I picked up guitar. So like for me as a kid, I was basically like, I was playing with toys, playing video games, going outside, riding my bike. That was literally it. And then when this thing came, I needed a distraction. And ever since then, I've had like different forms of that. I'm going to turn my phone off. I've had different forms of, like depression and or different. I'm sorry. I'm distracted by my text. I've had different forms of distractions from that. So that was really interesting when I thought about that the other day. I was like, oh, like ever since you were 11, like you picked up guitar, you started doing bands, because that's what this is for me, dude. Like without a band.
Yeah. And music really is the best therapy for a musician, and playing music especially.
Yeah.
And to kind of let all your emotions out, you can do it through music, and it really is the best therapy. And right now, and also playing shows too, which we can't do right now because of the whole coronavirus thing. Hopefully, I don't know. They were saying maybe in the fall that they might start having concerts again, but I'm thinking maybe not. Now, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
See, here's what's interesting. So, because you were telling me that everybody basically started driving. Like, I noticed there were a ton of people out today. I didn't know the malls were open. I was checking on updates every day about a month ago from the coronavirus, and it's just a way of life for me now.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of like, okay, this is what's going on. But I didn't know they opened stuff back up.
In Indiana, yeah, they did.
Okay.
Kentucky, they're a little bit stricter.
Okay. Well, to me, I'm like, and I know. These people that I know, they go to this church, and I go there occasionally. Apparently they're going to open back up in 3 weeks as a drive-in church with like, and they're going to come in through like the radio or whatever. And I'm seeing everything open up, but part of me, I keep hearing about this second wave that is apparently a thing. Like even Jeff was saying, Jeff, who owns part of Maxwell's House of Music, he was saying it's inevitable for these things, and it always happens.
Right.
And I guess that's going to determine what's going to happen, because I talked to several people about, the the paranoia surrounded her. Okay, well, I'm not gonna. If there's gonna be 100 people, like heck no, I'm not gonna go there. You know?
Right. Yeah, I think for me, as far as the second wave, I don't think anybody knows for sure yet. I feel like it could go either way. I really
Yeah.
do. They say that sunlight or the UV rays are supposed to kill this virus as it heats up. It's
Okay.
supposed to kill it. But, I don't know if that's true. I know it is for the flu. I'm not sure about this, but I've heard that that was a possibility.
Yeah.
So hopefully so. I feel like there would be less of a chance of a second wave, or at least a bad second wave, if that's the case.
That would be awesome. Like if everything was coming back, well, because we've had all our shows. We had. Okay, so for you guys that don't know, we recently became OneLife, and we had a bunch of shows coming up from like spring to fall. Like we finally got this momentum that I've been looking for, and the stuff, all of it's supposed to be rescheduled. But like the momentum of everyone being like, "Oh, this is cool, One Life doing stuff," it killed that. Like that
Yes,
killed it dead.
it
Now
did.
we've existed on the internet, but like, so that's been like hard to deal with. Like that was really hard to deal with for the first month because that keeps me going. Like the happiest, best times in my life is when I was in bands.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
And
same here.
yeah, just to me, there's something about like when I'm in a band and I go to a show, I just meet more people. Like
Hmm.
it's an excuse. I feel like people don't just randomly like go up and talk to each other. You have to have an excuse to like be friends almost.
Right. Yeah, and you do. You meet so many people after the show, sometimes before the show.
Yeah.
And it's a really good excuse to meet new people. But yeah, there's nothing like playing in front of a live audience. I mean, the roar of the crowd or, just seeing people get into what you're doing. It really it's the best feeling in the world. It's the best high. It really is. There's not a better high.
Yeah, dude, and like even like the people that I know now, they always look forward to like the shows because it's like the one like everyone's so isolated, even before this, like people are isolated, people are always on their phones. And even me, I live on my phone because of my business and
Sure.
everything.
Yeah.
But it's just everyone really likes to go to a show and hang out with people. And I think for me, like not knowing when that's going to happen next, there was some heavy, like in my brain compensation I had to do and
Yeah.
basically be like, okay, what's our direction? We're just going to post a bunch of videos and see what happens. And, but the online response is a little bit different because everyone's
It is.
posting.
Right. Yeah, everybody's kind of doing the live stream concerts now, and that's kind of why we started going to YouTube, and trying to do something a little bit different. We were thinking, well, what is everybody else not doing? What can
Yeah.
we do that they're not doing? And we're starting to post a lot more on YouTube, trying to kind of fill the void, even though it's not the same. We're just doing the best we can with what we have to work with.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. But like even, kind of back to what we were saying with, what depression is. I think I think I may have said it a little bit before, but like when I tell people like, okay, so like I've had like, suicidal thoughts, to me everything is some form of like depression, like like extreme depression leads to suicidal thoughts. It's almost like it's almost like the doorway to like each different thing, you know what I'm saying? So like having anxiety, I mean, anxiety is horrible to begin with, but like it's like that can, because that caused you to go into like a depressive state, right?
Over the years, yeah, like I say, when I turned about 16, that's kind of when I started having episodes of depression here and there.
Yeah.
And real quick, when you mentioned earlier how when you're really young and you might get scared, but you don't really have depression. I thought it was a really interesting thing because when you're young, everything is still interesting. There's so many new things that you haven't experienced yet in life. And I don't know, it just kind of came to me when you talked about that earlier. And I think that's partly the reason why, but as you get older and you start becoming depressed, you start losing interest in all the things that you found that do, give you pleasure and things that make you happy, things you enjoy to do. But when you're really young, you there's still so many things you're learning about or experiencing new things all the time. So everything's still interesting, and time also moves so much slower too. You notice like when you turn 18, the years just start flying by because you become so used to life and you've experienced most things, you
Yeah.
know, at that point, or at least most everyday
You mean like
things.
life to you slows down after 18, or like,
Well, the
or are you
years
saying
start
speed up?
moving. Yeah, the years
Okay.
start moving by a lot quicker.
Okay. Here's what's really interesting. And I never compare like mental illnesses or whatever, but for whatever reason, age, dude, the past like 10 years to me have felt like a lifetime. I don't know why. I think part of that is with like, it's partly, I think for me, I think everyone experiences different. It's like,
Definitely.
it's the suicidal thoughts, but and the insomnia too, because I haven't been able to sleep. So literally, I mean, I'm just unable to sleep. But I think too, I hear most people say that life speeds up for whatever reason. It's got
Right.
this reverse effect on me.
Huh.
And it's every day is like today already feels really long. Like I
Really?
have, dude, I've had those days
Right.
where it's like, oh my gosh, I don't want this to end. Or it feels like it's going, but I haven't had one of those in like, dude, it's been a long time. I don't even remember.
Yeah, for me, like I said, once I turned 16, it's just like, I don't know, the first, 15, 16 years of my life where they just flew. Or,
Yeah.
I mean, they just dragged. And then when I turned 16, it was just like a year seems like what a couple months used to seem like when I was
Wow.
younger. I mean, I don't know what that is. It just seems like life is flying. And I feel like, I'm 27 now. I'm going to be 50 tomorrow, it feels like.
Yeah. Well, like another thing that was interesting, I was thinking about this too. Part of the reason, okay, so when I was like 22, I had depression, but I was in a pretty successful band. We were doing a lot of cool stuff, and I was super excited for life. And I always wondered, and no offense to people that are like older, but I always like wondered. I was like, why is every adult sad? Like every adult I look around, most of them look tired and scared and depressed. Like that's most like my girlfriend's parents at the time, any girlfriend I've dated, most of their parents were tired or sad, and I'd go anywhere else, or my friends' parents. I'm like, what happens to people? And then I got kicked in the teeth with life, and I was like, oh, that's what happens. But for me, I think what I've found is if you run after your passion and you run after what you love, you can fight that, because I have seen several people fight that stuff. Mark's one of
Absolutely.
them.
Yes.
Mark is one of them. He's one of the dudes. Mark Maxwell, another co-owner of Maxwell's House of Music. He's a guy that, like, if I haven't had him in his example, I wouldn't even know probably that exists for people, because it's so rare, because I think so many people just jump into their whatever 9 to 5.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you right now, like even a lot of people that I used to have in, like that I used to teach aren't doing music, and they say how much they miss it. And then I talk to like these other adults, and they're like, yeah, I used to love doing this and this. And people stopped. And I'm like, I would be absolutely miserable if I stopped
Right.
music.
Same here.
I mean, even when I did my whole movie, I was low key not in a band. I was in a band, and we kind of were like a studio band. Like we wrote a lot, and we maybe performed like 3 or 4 times. Those 3 or 4 times, they were really fun. I remember them. But like, I just remember 2016 to 18 was like the worst 2 years of my life, because I wasn't in a band and I wasn't following my passion. And I'm like, okay, it makes sense to me.
Well, it's funny because, it's not funny. I don't know why I said that. But anyway.
It's our first podcast.
First podcast.
Forgive us.
But anyway, no, I've thought about that before. And, the older people get, the more, again, no offense to older people, but the more miserable maybe they seem to be. And I feel like a lot of those people, maybe they're realizing how old they are and their dreams never came true, or maybe they didn't have a chance to pursue those dreams because they had to go out and make a living. And that I could see that being an issue, or part of the reason why people get sad as they get older, because they realize their time is running out, and they just might not be able to do what they wanted to do in their younger years, or what they dreamed of doing.
And dude, that's
happen.
Well, and I think that's one advantage. Okay, I'm just connecting this now, but like, I have told people since age 11, I always knew what I wanted to do. And I knew I wanted to play guitar in church and basically be like a church worship leader. And I did that for a long time. But what it was really was some form of a dude on stage playing music, connecting with people. And I've known that since age 11. And what I just kind of connected is like, that's when the depression started. And I remember all my friends, like no one growing up knew what they wanted to do. They were just kind of having fun and partying and doing whatever. Now, granted, I lost out on that. So like, cause I didn't have a fun. So like a lot of my friends, or people that I went to high school with, they would say now, they were living it up, having fun in high school and doing that. But it's like, I guess the depression kept me from some of that too. Right. I was in some crazy psycho-religious circles, no offense to anyone. and it just kind of kept me from a lot of things that would be just fine. But it's interesting now to think that is what happened. Maybe that was the moment that made me realize I had to gravitate towards the one thing that would protect me from all that bad stuff. And right. It was I just remember going into a music store and seeing a black guitar when I was age 10, and I was like, that's it.
Yeah.
And so many people still don't even know, like they complain about their jobs and do whatever. And I'm just like, that sucks, man.
Right. And that's another good point. Some people never figured out what it was they wanted to do. And they never had any dreams, and they were stuck kind of doing the whole 9-to-5 thing their entire life. And it's sad.
Well, and I tell people, whenever people tell me that, I tell them to go try things and do a bunch of, because you can find it. You totally can. Like you're not too old or whatever to find your passion. I know we say
definitely
that
not.
Like we're younger, but they would maybe be like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. But like, I think you can absolutely find what you. I mean, whether it's photography or whatever, or makeup, YouTube. I don't know. Like you're gonna be happy if you do your stuff. So.
When I was, in school, everybody was into sports, like most schools, more so, into sports than music and other things. And I tried all that. I tried basketball. I also tried karate for a while. I was in karate.
Yeah.
And I didn't enjoy any of it. I sucked at it. That's probably why. But I don't know. It was it just never appealed to me, And gosh, so many people hated me because I did suck at sports too. Because everybody judged you, by how well you played sports.
Sports
in school.
Is so brutal, man.
And I thought I'd never find what, I wanted to do. And then I was probably about 12. I got a drum kit, started playing it, taught myself. Then later on started taking guitar lessons, learned that. And after doing that for a few years, I was probably 15. And that was when I was like, this is what I actually want to do for a career. Once I started kind of getting pretty good at it.
Yeah.
And, the rest is history.
The rest is history, man. Well, that's like something that's what I, call like a protective barrier from like suicidal thoughts or whatever. For me, it is music and connecting with people, I mean, I think more so for me, just because, my family life growing up was really weird. The main thing I love about music is like people can come and hang out, and if I'm in a band, dude, I'm just meeting more friends. I'm making more friends than when I'm not. I'm just kind of a random guy. And I mean, I guess I could go out to like, a bar or whatever and meet, but I don't know. Like you have to kind of go to.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
And I'm not, when I'm actually not playing, I'm not one to go out.
Oh, me either. Yeah.
Bars or wherever and watch bands. I played in so many bars, when I played in Thunderstruck, in the early days, the first 5 years, that I kind of, I needed a break from the bars, and I didn't really go out and see bands play. So if I wasn't playing, then I was pretty much at home or, just relaxing, having a night off sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because I didn't, get very many weekends off at the time. But yeah, I was never one to go out and, I was never a partier or one to go out to bars and that sort of thing, unless I was playing. And that was always great though, because you met so many people, and that's always a plus, getting to meet so many different people and other musicians who play and making somebody's day. Who had a bad day at work, some random person, and they come and see the show and they're like, "Oh, man, I needed that. That was y'all were the best AC/DC tribute I've ever seen," or whatever.
Dude, that's what it's about, and that's what I love. I mean, I get real nervous just with crowd. I don't like crowds. I think people do dumb things in crowds.
Mm-hmm.
But when I get on stage, I feel like, okay, I'm good.
We're kind of in a little bubble, we feel like.
Yeah, I'm in a bubble, and like after I'm done playing, like I'm like, okay, this is cool, and it's just one of those things. Like that's one of my. That's why this whole virus thing sucks. Is it's kind of taking a little bit of that away.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man.
And musicians need to play. They need to play in front of a crowd,
Yeah.
I mean, that is super important. Yeah, we can keep uploading stuff to YouTube, which is fun, and we're going to.
It's exhausting. It's kind of fun.
Right, yeah, there you go.
It's kind of fun.
It's kind of fun. When it's done and you can go back and watch it if it sounds good. That's the part that's awesome.
No, that's it. Like I have never been one of those dudes that like creates. I don't love creating. I love having created. I mean, like I don't like coming in the studio and doing this and that and all the. If I were to go into a studio and just like someone was doing everything and I just sang a couple lines, I'd be fine with that.
Right.
But like it's a lot of work to get that stuff in. It's so worth it. But I love this, and this is like part of the reward is I love when I get a message from someone like, hey, I checked out your YouTube. Like someone messaged me like a month ago and they were like saying how they watch our YouTube stuff and it kind of helps them.
Oh, that's awesome.
Whatever. But it's funny. Man, I have that scammer YouTube video. So guys, I listen to I watch a ton of YouTube all the time, and there's this guy and he basically like calls scammers and wastes their time so they can't scam old people. And he's the funniest dude in the world. He does these voices of old ladies and like blonde chicks and just bros, and it's the funniest thing. And this is crazy. So like I have kind of these negative thoughts that'll come, and they're very strong and they're related to the suicidal stuff. So if I'm thinking about an ex or something in the past, literally I watch that and it's gone. Right. it makes it disappear.
Same here. Yeah, just like Joel, I watch all this crazy stuff on YouTube. I love YouTube pranks or hidden camera pranks, and I never grew up when it comes to certain things. I'm just gonna be honest. I love farts, love toilet humor. Okay, I love farts. I think they're the funniest thing in the world. And I'll go and watch these hidden camera pranks where some guy hides a camera in his cart and kind of wraps clothes around it or whatever, to where people can't see it. And so one person's pushing the cart around, and the other guy's going around with some little fart machine, and farting and getting people's reactions. And I mean, it's just the best thing in the world to me. Like if I'm having a bad day, I pull that up and
Game over.
I got a smile on my face again.
That's it,
You can forget about the negative thoughts for a little bit, maybe.
So when we're like that, fart videos, that's what OneLife videos do for people.
Yes.
No. Well, because like when I was watching my stuff, I was like, oh, that's a little bit of why people listen to our stuff, because I don't consume a lot of art. Like I don't listen to a lot of music. I just do it too much, and I'm like, oh, that's what people mean when they say about stuff. So that's why YouTube is my kind of biggest asset right now. Is I'm like, I don't hear people like saying, oh, I was on Facebook all day, watching videos or doing like Facebook's kind of just for arguing and. I don't know.
Man, Facebook will really bring a person down nowadays. Too,
it's so toxic, dude. And like even Instagram is like everyone bragging and showing off. I do it. I mean, I don't. Here's the deal. Okay, here's the one advantage I think that I have over other people on Instagram is my social media is not to say like, ha 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 ha, my personal life is awesome, which is basically everyone's social media.
Yes.
Mine is to advertise OneLife in my brand to say, ha ha ha, my life is awesome.
Right.
It's but it's I don't know. Dude.
Everyone is comparing themselves to their friends on social media, and you can't do that because most likely they're making their lives sound much better than they really are.
Except on YouTube.
Yes.
YouTube is just awesome.
It is. It is just awesome. It's the real deal.
Well, and I think it's because like for YouTube, so many people are afraid to get on there because it requires the most. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's intense, but the rewards for you get real actual fans on YouTube, and YouTube pushes you up in the algorithm. So right now we're getting 30 to 50 views of video, but every single one of these, I researched YouTube for the past 3 years. every single one of these big YouTubers started with that, and some of them did it for 5 years.
Oh, absolutely.
Some of them did, a lot of them did it for 3 years, and they had 1,000 subs finally, and then some video happened and they just blew up.
And then from there it just kept getting better and better. But it just takes that one thing that
Takes
really
that one
hits.
thing. The one thing, and I got that one thing like 7 years ago. The video's got 200,000 views on my old band's channel, but we lost the password, and two, I wouldn't want to take over that channel because. So we're trying to do that with OneLife, and people say it's harder nowadays, but I tried to do YouTube back in 2010. It's not harder. It's the same. It's equally impossible. So, man.
Everybody subscribe.
Everybody subscribe to this channel with this podcast. We're gonna at some point we'll try to video this.
Yes.
We should get Alex and Phoebe in on this. That would be amazing. Because do you know that game Animal Crossing?
Oh yeah.
Okay, apparently Alex has literally, like, Alex, if you're listening to this, which I hope you are, he's been on there like literally like 24/7.
That is awesome.
Since this started, I told him, I'm like, dude, you need to start a YouTube channel, because he's like posting these things on Facebook and it's getting a ton of comments and likes. And I'm like, dude, start a YouTube channel about Animal Crossing and you will like blow up.
Yeah, those gamers who have YouTube channels, they they're very popular right now.
Well,
and I love video games too, so yeah.
Dude, and low key, like I was talking to Alex about like, dude, the video game industry is booming.
Oh my God.
And he was maybe Alex, I don't know if I'm getting this right, but he there's a lot of music in video games, like bands that people find through video games. And I was talking to him and I was like, dude, what if we start making music? Because part of the reason we haven't released a lot of original music right now is we're trying to find our audience. We're trying to find, like, the mental health stuff is working, but we put out a OneLife CD last September, and it was basically a bunch of songs that I wrote in 2015 in Atlanta from another band, and I just pushed to this because we thought that's what it was going to be. But right now we're trying to find what people with mental health issues would listen to and just kind of basically figure that out. But I was like, the video game industry is like escapism. And what if we created music for those people? Because
absolutely.
And we don't really have anything yet, but that's just my first thought, because when I create music, I'm like, who is this for?
That's a really good idea.
I literally have been thinking about that for the past 2 weeks, and I was going to talk to you about it.
Yeah.
Because there's so much, like even like writing a song based on a video game and then sending it into the developer.
Yeah.
Because there's so much money in video games. It's ridiculous.
There is. And I love video game music anyway. Like even when I'm not playing video games, I'll go on YouTube and pull up my favorite soundtrack, maybe from The Legend of Zelda or a certain series or whatever. And it's just there's so much good music out there, video game music.
Have you ever played the game Kingdom Hearts?
I haven't.
Okay, so it's this RPG that came out back in 2002, and there's this original song in there, and I think it was by some Chinese person, but it sounded like 2013 back in 2002. It sounds like what was being written in 2013, and I just listened to that song all the time, and I was like, oh wait, like this is a good way to do this, because right now, especially with my phase of life, I feel like kind of where we're at, it's like not in high school, not in college. What do you write about? What do you do? And I'm like, everyone's playing video games. And I just, I was just thinking, what if we write some songs with some different sound?
That would be sick. Yeah. And it's funny because I a long time ago, maybe a year ago, wasn't too long ago, I kind of was listening to an interview from one of my favorite drummers, Stuart Copeland from The Police. He actually made the soundtrack to Spyro the Dragon, the PlayStation games.
That's crazy.
And he was talking about it one day. I was like, man, that's so cool. And I loved that game growing up. I never even knew, And I was like, that would be so fun to make music for video games. And like you say, the video game market is booming.
Video gamers are hardcore fans too. They are hardcore fans. They're hardcore nerds, and that's not a bad thing. I'm a nerd. Like,
oh yeah, me too.
I
love
my room. Yeah. we're gonna show a vlog on your room one time.
We gotta do that.
But I feel like nerd is just another word for like someone that's like a fan of like escapism.
Yes, absolutely.
And the potential there, to me, I'm like, age to me isn't going to be a huge factor in that thing, like,
Yeah.
if this is a band and people are, we're not old, but, we're not
Right.
like super young. So it's like, maybe if we start playing music to that, maybe there's a thing like this Final Fantasy VII game just came out.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a huge remake. And I mean, the thing sold like millions of copies, I think. And, I was just like, what if we had a song on there? What if we wrote a song inspired by that, put it on YouTube, target it towards all the Final Fantasy fans? Because right now on Facebook, I'm just like, it's really hard because I know exactly how to target like the Christian market, Christian fans. I know what kind of music they listen to.
Right.
It's such a niche thing. But like with the mental health stuff and kind of where we're moving, it's a little bit of a different conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's a huge reason we're kind of like figuring out the shift is it's almost like when I was like, okay, we are a Christian band that does suicide prevention. That's two separate goals. And they can both be the same type of thing, but it's two specific different goals. And we played a couple of churches, and not to say that like people weren't thankful and they weren't like, oh, that's cool. But I don't think it was like a huge, like it wasn't like, there wasn't really a market for it necessarily. And so I'm kind of like, okay, well, what if, like I said, I know that crowd. I know what they want to listen to. I know what lyrics they want to hear. I can write that. I wrote I wrote between 2014 and 17, 1,000 songs that were like a song every day for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
That was like Christian targeted. And some of them were really, if I had known some bigger producers, they might've gone places because there was 3 or 4 in there that were, I think were really good. And I know how to do that. But this new thing, I'm like, there's some type of a thing that video gamers or just people would love to listen to. And it's like, what if we figure that out?
Dude, that would be a really good idea. And
Yeah.
and even thinking of myself a little bit, listening to video game music, it comforts me if I'm in a dark place a little bit. You kind of get lost in that game almost again without actually playing it. We were talking about The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time one day, how that was just an amazing game, and it's just like one of the best games ever. It's my favorite video game ever.
So good.
And yeah, I mean, if you're, for a video gamer, if you're, depressed and you sit down and play that game, you're going to get lost in it, in that fantasy land. And same with the music, just listening to the music, you kind of get lost in that as well.
And dude, I think most gamers have something, a depression, anxiety.
The serious ones for sure.
Dude, okay, so what's super interesting is I was really into video games until about 2014. And when we moved, I lost all my friends. So I kind of lost a lot of myself for a while. I didn't play video games probably for 7 or 8 years, but I came back to it when I was 21 and I just started getting back into it. But dude, I played video games all the time. And it's just like, it's just like this super awesome escape.
It is.
And I was just thinking about that 2 weeks ago. Like, man, what if we like jump into that? I think it could be. I think the potential there is massive.
Tons of potential.
Because it's like, who do you like? Who do we write? If we're not, because that's the first question I have. Like, even if someone comes in the studio, hey, I want to write this. Okay, who's it to? Like, if it's for yourself and you want to do something, because I've done that before, dude. Like, my movie was low key for myself. Like, it was a suicide prevention Christian movie. And there's people that really resonated with it. But, if you're going to target that there wasn't really a huge target market for that. But I'm like, when people come in here and they're like, hey, I want to record and I want to do this and we want to be a big band. I'm like, who's your fan? Like, we got to find the fans. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what it is yet, but what if there was this, type music that was kind of with lyrics and because like Post Malone's one of the biggest dudes out there. He's like super into video games. And I'm like, dude, I was talking because Alex goes to all these conventions. Alex, if you're listening, keep talking about Alex. He goes to like every gaming convention or whatever he can. And I'm just talking to him right now. And I'm like, dude, who do we talk to? What do we do?
Right.
Because I think right now as a band, we're just trying to kind of build, how do we get like the 1,000 fans, 1,000 fan or customer theory. And right now I would definitely say we've for sure got like 50 to 100, which is pretty good for not being a band for that long.
Oh, definitely.
Of people that are just, super supportive and whatever. But I also want to make sure, too, like with what we released, how the other thing was Christian, and maybe these newer songs are going to be a little bit different. If we released stuff that's like, hey, this is like, I want to talk about mental health stuff for the first time in my life, I think there's fantastic, amazing bands out there that, talk about religion and God and all these other things. But to me, I'm like, okay, they're doing out there, they're killing it with that. To complement whatever they're doing, let me talk about my mental health things in a certain way. And I don't know.
And I can't really think of any bands that are doing that or kind of taking that approach. So I think it's really interesting. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just got to find what works,
Dude.
and try several different things, and it'll hit for sure. Something will hit. Speaking of, you mentioned earlier how you think most video gamers are the ones who really take it serious, like maybe have some kind of depression or some kind of mental health issues. I feel the same way about musicians.
Yeah.
For sure, because I feel like most people that are creative in any sort of way, there's a void being filled, like
escapism, that escapism.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know one musician who doesn't have some sort of something, you know what I mean?
Well, and I think like I don't know a person that doesn't have some. I mean, granted, I think it's easier when you get out of high school because then people get hit with life. And you might have had a great life in high school. At some point, I've got this kind of like dirty analogy that I'm not going to use, but like life comes at you.
Yeah.
Like it just comes at you and something happens. So, dude, totally. I think, but I think like, with like video games, it's like people spend, $80 on a video game.
Yeah.
Like maybe
Absolutely.
they'll be our fans.
Yeah.
But no, dude, I totally agree with you. Like people, musicians, everybody's got something.
Right.
And I think musicians and some musicians kind of, I guess we have a way to, everyone's kind of finding a way to escape their thing.
Mm-hmm.
Even with sports, like
Absolutely.
everything is. See, that's another thing. Well, I would have. See, I love video games, but like we could be like a sports, like, but I'm not at like like we're gonna make music for like sports or whatever fans or I
wouldn't know where to begin.
Nickelback.
Oh man.
Yeah, dude. Or Creed, Nickelback or Creed, type of stuff. Okay. Well, this was dope. Thank you guys for listening to the OneLife podcast, and this is Joel and Justin. And subscribe to the channel and
stay safe. And hopefully all this will end shortly. Hopefully there won't be a second wave of this thing, or at least it won't be as bad. But
I've had 6 people. I'm going to tell you this. 6 people message me to reschedule shows in October.
Oh, really?
There's no like. I'm just kind of like at this point. I'm like, hold on, like. Which one of you? I don't know which one. Like, I don't even know if we're free.
Right.
like, and there's no way we're gonna be able to do 6.
Right.
So I don't know, but hopefully, you guys will see us soon.
Yeah. Hopefully there will be some shows this fall. Can't guarantee it, but we'll see. Only time will tell.
Time will tell. All right, guys. Thanks. Take care.
Bye.